Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in the Northwest Territories today, getting a first-hand look at the hardest-hit areas from this year's record wildfire season. He began his tour in Enterprise. The community was all but destroyed by wildfires this summer. Trudeau walked through the destruction, including burnt-out homes and vehicles. He was led by local leaders and a man who lost his home to the fires. After seeing Enterprise, Trudeau went to Hay River. He met with the town's fire chief and mayor, who showed him how the fires near Hay River grew throughout the season and the risk they posed. He finished his South Slave tour here on the Katlo-Deche First Nation, which saw extensive damage from spring wildfires. Both Hay River and Katlo-Deche had to evacuate twice this year, first in May, then again in August. Trudeau sat down with Katlo-Deche's chief and some members today.
It's a pleasure to be able to exchange with all of you and hear about what the community envisions for the future and how we can be there to help.
Almost 70% of people in the Northwest Territories were displaced during this fire season. Notably, most people from Enterprise are still displaced. But today, after the visit from the Prime Minister, the Hamlet's mayor has renewed hope. Take a listen.
It makes me feel like they are finally listening to us, and it felt like we're relevant again, that we're not irrelevant anymore. It took a lot of fighting and a lot of arguing to get not him here, to get people to hear us. I asked them for support, and he said that they'll streamline all the help that they can get to us. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later, because winter's coming. And he thanked me for the resilience of still being here and helping with everything and lobbying the territorial government. And stories, walking through, telling him the names of the people that lived there and the children and all that. Like, I think it really affected him. And I hope he finds a way to help. All the environmental assessments have been done. We've got notice of that on Friday. So now it's cleaning up. You know, a small community of 100 people, the Prime Minister comes in here and talks to us, and he heard us. Now all he has to do is follow through.
Only about 20 of Enterprise's 120 residents are back in the community. Most are staying in other parts of the territory or the country until housing is brought in to replace what was lost. While the Premier is visiting the NWT, the Yukon got its own VIP visit this week. The mayor of Whitehorse's sister city in Ukraine. Ravsan Faruk-Jugal brings us that story.
Hello, my brother. Hello.
Welcome to Canada.
The mayor of Chorkiv is in the Yukon, hoping to establish economic relationships with the territory. This comes after the city of Whitehorse established a sister city relationship with Chorkiv earlier this year. Mayor Volodymyr Shmachko says Ukraine is currently trying to liberalize its own economy, and the Yukon has a role to play.
In order to develop especially the fields of IT and recycling. We have those proposals, and we will present them tomorrow to the local authorities.
At the airport in Whitehorse, there were more than just business talks. There was an acknowledgement of Indigenous lands and history.
Welcome to our city, which we share in part with Kwanlin Dun First Nation. It is an absolute honor to welcome you here today, and I do hope you have the best visit.
And also an exchange of gifts and culture.
And this talks about our culture, our history, our traditional knowledge, our languages that we speak here, and I want to offer this to you.
Local tobacco from Chorkiv. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Our culture is very, very unique. Much like yours, and we really just want to share, everything that we've done to revitalize our culture and our traditions in order to carry it on to our next generations, and how we're not merely just surviving anymore, but we're thriving. So just to share our stories with you so you can bring them home to your families.
The Ukrainian-Canadian Association in the Yukon played a major role in making this happen. In the meanwhile, Mayor Schmatko will be meeting with First Nation leadership, members of the Yukon government and the city of Whitehorse, and other local business interests. He hopes to return home with a reciprocal relationship that works for both Yukoners and Ukrainians alike. Rafsan Farouk Jugo, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Some Nunavut students say they can't access post-secondary funding and they're getting frustrated. The CBC's Jody Ninyocha tells us the impact it's having on them.
Some post-secondary students are looking for part-time jobs or dropping out of their courses. This is because they are not getting funding from scholarships or financial assistance. Whether it's because they have not been approved or are waiting long periods of time. Caitlin Kalai from Coral Harbor is in her 5th year of the Nunavut Teacher Education Program, but she has been denied funding from both the Kakivak Association and the institution that always funded her all this time, the Kivalliq Inuit Association. She is trying to get her bachelor's degree at the Nunavut Arctic College in Iqaluit. Kalai says she struggles to focus on her studies because she is looking for a part-time job and other funding sources.
It's no wonder there's not a lot of Inuit teachers. Like, how are we going to thrive if we keep struggling like this?
According to KIA, more students from the region are trying to further their education this year. Since 2020, the number of students funded by KIA has almost tripled. The association's president, Kunuta Twini, says,
there are more and more young people wanting to go to school, wanting to further their education. We want to help them all, but the funds run out.
Another student had to drop out of her program because the funding did not come in on time. Tracy Itinua was attending her first year in nursing at the University of Brandon. Itinua had applied for funding from financial assistance for Nunavut students and the KIA at the end of May. Unfortunately, she was not approved until her courses already started in the second week of September. By then, it was too late, and Itinol is now back in Rankin Inlet working at one of the schools as a substitute teacher.
After all the blocking from the funding, I have absolutely no motivation to go to school. Like, I just want to stay in Rankin and work for another year.
KIA President Tatwini says over $4 million has been allocated to students since April of this year. These funds come from the federal government and the Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated. CBC tried reaching out to the GN for comment, but did not get a response by deadline. Jody Ningyachal, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Imagine going days or weeks without water. Some residents in Kingyte say that is exactly what is happening to them, and they're taking to social media, saying the hamlet should declare a state of emergency. This May, the community's water pump broke. That caused a delay in household water deliveries. Kingyte's mayor says he's been in talks with the government of Nunavut to fix the issue.
They are very supportive and wanting to make sure things are moving ahead, and they might be sending some resource people to check it out from TGS, and we'll be waiting.
Bilitak Enterprises is in the community working to fix it. Manning says the repairs will likely be completed in November. Marine vessels can once again get into the Hay River Harbor without worrying about getting stuck on a sandbar. The NWT government says it's all done with its emergency dredging for this year. The harbor is a critical part of the territory's transportation network, but sediment has built up in it for years, so much that the government calls it the plug. And lately, low water levels have made it hard for vessels to get in there. That prompted the GNWT to spend about $7 million to hire a contractor to tackle the sediment that's been building up where the river flows into Great Slave Lake. They've now finished dredging a 30-meter wide channel that's almost 2.5 meters deep. That work will continue next year.
Things are too good, just scared that things will be taken away.
Think of the education they will receive.
You're going to see things you never forget.
There is no way that that we are going to give up when we are threatened with cultural genocide.
Sometimes it's the beautiful things that hurt the most to remember.
You promised me that you won't look back. You are our tomorrow.
I am in the best place in the entire world right now.
Oh, I always play with fire.
This is an epic fail.
I'm obsessed with these.
I am utterly speechless.
Do you know what destiny means?
There is no power greater than that of the people.
I will not run away.
My destiny is to rule this country.
Victoria. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Every week, the issues that matter to Canadians.
These are acts of desperation.
Connecting politics to people.
Some people have lost everything.
Join me for Rosemary Barton Live.
Saskatchewan's government is poised to use an obscure section of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the name of preserving a controversial school policy. The province currently forces teachers to tell parents if their child under 16 wants to use a different name, pronoun, or gender expression at school, whether the child wants their family to know or not. And now it's planning to defend that through a charter clause that lets parliaments override other charter rights. The CBC's Sam Sampson reports.
Make school safe! Everyone here says they want to protect children. But they disagree about whether Saskatchewan's school pronoun policy meets that goal. Most here oppose the requirement that teachers inform parents if their child under 16 wants to use a different name or pronoun. By recalling the Legislative Assembly early this week, Premier Scott Moe takes the first step to invoking the notwithstanding clause.
That is part of the charter, and it was put in place so that elected members in the future would be able to determine which of those rights ultimately would be in place moving forward. I'm not talking about children's rights. What we're talking about when a school division or a school will actually recognize a decision that the child has made.
Human rights groups say the policy is unconstitutional and will harm trans students. The policy itself is being challenged in court. If the notwithstanding clause is used, it will make any court decision moot, keeping the policy in classrooms.
And if he's willing to trample on the rights, the Charter of Rights of 16-year-olds who can't vote, what's coming next?
But the government has supporters as well.
We're parents. We have the right to know what's going on with our children. So Scott Moe is making the right decision right now and invoking this. He's had no choice.
The notwithstanding clause allows governments to override certain charter rights. In recent years, it's been used by provinces like never before.
The notwithstanding clause is in effect for a period of 5 years, at which time the legislature then makes a decision whether to re-invoke. If we're starting to have more use of the clause, we're going to see governments confront that issue.
The next step is for the bill and the notwithstanding clause to receive a first reading. That's expected tomorrow. From there, the government moves into a marathon debate, meaning it could be days before Saskatchewan parents, teachers, and students get answers. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
The NHL is banning players from using pride tape or other themed tapes on their sticks. It's part of updated guidelines surrounding theme nights. Cameron McIntosh explains what's behind the change and why some say it's a step backwards.
A symbol of inclusivity, now benched it appears for good. Rainbow-colored stick tape, pride tape.
Very disappointing to hear this news coming from the NHL.
Chris Wells is co-founder of Pride Tape. Invented, he says, to promote inclusion. It was used on occasion on all 32 NHL teams.
It's never been forced. It's just been available for players to signal their support without having to say any words.
Pride Tape was first used by the Edmonton Oilers and counts the game's biggest name among its advocates.
Is it something that I'd like to see put back into place one day? Certainly.
It stems from an announcement last June. The NHL decided to discontinue the use of themed warm-up jerseys after a handful of players refused to wear pride jerseys, some citing religious and cultural objections.
That's just become more of a distraction from really the essence of what the purpose of these nights are.
It's not just pride tape. Other on-ice displays like pink tape or pink hockey sticks for cancer initiatives or camouflage tape in support of military nights also won't continue.
There's been a lot of collateral damage in this discussion.
David Palumbo is with You Can Play, dedicated to LGBTQ plus inclusion in sport.
Unfortunately, I can't sit here and tell you that, a lot of this is because someone has expressed concern over using camo tape to express support for military families or refuses to wear a Hockey Fights Cancer jersey.
Many teams will still go ahead with their Pride nights. Winnipeg's game will go next month.
The commitment, from an organization standpoint is we'll do everything we possibly can.
The NHL didn't respond to a request for comment, but has said many times in the past that it supports diversity and inclusion. Its players just won't be showing it on the ice. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Canada's nursing shortage has led to a big increase in recruitment overseas, in particular from the Philippines. They can make more money in Canada, and their work is desperately needed. But it's straining resources in the Philippines. The CBC's Stephanie Dubois traveled there to learn more.
There's so much work to do in this Manila maternity ward. Diapers to change, moms to care for, but not enough nurses.
When there are days that we're short of nurses, I think the most suffering is the patients, especially the quality of care that we provide to them.
Nurse Jay Insila says many are leaving for better opportunities abroad. 10 coworkers have left in the last 6 months. And with dozens needing care in this ward, nurses like Jay pick up the slack.
It's hard, but we get used to it.
But he is fearful for the future.
What will happen to the Filipino people? Who will take care of them?
Several Canadian provinces have been to the Philippines to recruit nurses in the last year. Manitoba among them, seen here making their pitch.
Give and take. We are taking workers from the Republic of the Philippines, but we also want to give back. So we want to give back in terms of incentives.
Filipino health officials say they're short upwards of 350,000 nurses, with private hospitals hit especially hard.
The nursing situation in the Philippines is really not good.
Countries like Canada often turn to one of the hundreds of recruiters in the Philippines to find staff. Jocelyn Adamo is with Filipino Nurses United.
The Philippines is actually a labor exporting country, and we have been #1 supplier of nurses to the world. We have to admit that we have been commodified.
Hundreds of possible applicants stream through this job fair. In Canada, they can make over 7.5 times what they make at home. And more than a dozen countries went looking for nurses in the last year alone.
Just for this month, 4 will be resigning, and they have been given the opportunity to go abroad.
Dr. Urbe Bugay is in charge of a hospital in Bulacan, just outside of Manila. And he says recruitment has become so intense that countries are now hiring new graduates, a pool of nurses that local hospitals typically rely on to staff their wards.
Those recruitment strategy is working for them, for those countries, but not working for us.
Many in the Philippines say nurses need to be paid more, with some making less than $350 Canadian a month. And they need better working conditions.
#safe nurse to patient ratio. And we believe that it would not reach the very critical situation if we take care of our nurses here.
Until those changes are realized, countries like Canada will remain an outlet for Filipino nurses, creating a solution for one country and a growing concern for the other. Stephanie Dubois, CBC News, Manila.
People from across Nunavut are heading to Rankin Inlet next week to attend a summit on the state of caribou in the territory. It's the first caribou summit since 2019. Hunters and trappers organizations, Nunavut Dunlavik Incorporated, and the government of Nunavut will also participate. NTI's vice president says the gathering is important because traditional knowledge on caribou is slowly disappearing.
We want to preserve that knowledge of how to hunt, how to butcher, how to clean skins, and how to manage caribou, and want to pass that on to our youth.
The Nunavut government will also be providing an update on the status of caribou in each region. Ringout says it'll be an Inuit-led symposium. Everything will be recorded with a report to follow. The two-day summit starts on Tuesday. Elections NWT is looking to get children involved in the upcoming territorial election. It's launching the Kids Vote campaign to teach kids up to grade 7 about voting.
We know that if kids are introduced to voting, they are more likely to vote when they turn 18. And if you vote when you turn 18, you are more likely to vote for life. If you don't vote in your first election, it becomes less likely that you become a habitual voter going forward.
Kids can vote for Frankie Fox, Charlene Caribou, Bobby Bear, and Pat Ptarmigan. And the winner will be announced on election night. So far, 9 schools in 7 communities have registered. We might see some Inuvialuit actors on the small screen soon. 27 people came out to Inuvik to audition for an Iqaluit-based comedy. The casting call went all across Canada. Some even drove in from Tuktoyaktuk for the opportunity. The CBC's Des Loreen tells us more.
The casting call is for an Inuit-based comedy in Iqaluit. The production is looking for any Inuit actors all across Canada. The Inuvialuit Communications Society in Inuvik hosted local auditions last week. The society chartered a bus from Tuktoyaktuk to get more people in front of the casting director. Betty Elias was one of the 6 Tuk residents who came to Inuvik for the chance. Elias said she had fun auditioning, but isn't sure if she would accept the role if chosen.
I would just say Ali. I don't know. I don't know how I would react. Probably I just kind of like, oh no, should I or shouldn't I? But, it's something new and it's a new experience, and give it a shot.
Tamara Vudrak is the manager of ICS. She is hopeful someone from the region gets cast in the production.
I would love to see someone from our region get represented, because oftentimes in southern Canada, when they think Inuit or they think of Nunavut, they think of Nunavik, they don't necessarily think of the Western Arctic.
Tanya Grubin is another local who auditioned and hopes for local representation.
I think this is a good thing to have our Inuit on the air. It's a time of where our Aboriginal people are really coming into the networks and into the world, so that they know who we are.
The production is expected to film from March to July 2024. Des Loreen, CBC News, Inuvik.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. We leave you with a song performed by Katlo-Deche First Nation drummers for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
treaty in Cree is Naskomitoin, an oral agreement. And our agreements were always spoken. For George Spence, the core of treaty was Wichihioin, to help one another.
And so we, the commissioners...
He was there for the making of Treaty 9, where the Cree were told...
We will honor this agreement together, for as long as the sun shines and the waters flow.
The Cree made their mark because they were assured that the land would be shared, and they would always be able to harvest what they needed. George Spence was my great-grandfather. In his life, he saw many promises of the treaty go unfulfilled.
Treaties were essential to the creation of Canada. First Nations still fight for the agreements to be honored.
Keeping secrets, are you?
No, sir.
Just like any man. Starting new.
On the run.
Whatever you're gonna do, you need to do it now.
Hang on, guys. I'm sure you'll get some action.
Promise?
Putting on that apron brings me to tears. Hey!
This is an epic fail.
Where are the pecans? I don't see the pecans.
The stones.
The Beatles.
I did a test.
What?
We were failed by history. Look where we are under that legacy.
It's really important that we own our stories.
Just remain calm. Grab the head.
You grab the head. Have you ever dealt with something like this before?
No.
It's on me now.
Animal Control. Watch all episodes now.
It was awesome. It was great. I loved it.
Yeah, good show.
With the comedy in, with the history.
He was really funny.
Nailed it. It was great.
Still Standing. Watch free on CBC Gem.
We have an incredible show lined up for you tonight.
Wow!